During dinner I heard my wife scream from the kitchen and ran in to find my brother standing over her, his fist still clenched after punching her directly in the stomach, the same stomach she'd been tenderly cradling all day, telling everyone she was 16 weeks along with our miracle baby. When I tackled him to the floor in blind rage, he gasped, "She's not pregnant." I saw her dumping the prenatal vitamins down the sink and stuffing a pillow under her dress before you got home. I nearly choked him before our father pulled us apart. That was 6 hours ago. Now I'm sitting in the emergency room, staring at the doctor's report. Look, I need to tell you something absolutely insane, and I need you to believe me because nobody else will. 6 hours ago, I thought I knew my life. I thought I knew my wife. I thought I knew my brother. Now I'm holding a medical report that's turned everything I believed into a complete lie, and I honestly don't know if I'm losing my mind or if everyone around me already has. Let me back up to this morning, when everything still made sense. Sarah had been glowing for weeks. Not the fake, Instagram filter kind of glowing, the real thing. Her skin looked different, softer somehow, and she kept touching her stomach with this secret little smile that made my chest tight with happiness. 16 weeks pregnant with our first baby after 3 years of trying. 3 years of negative tests, doctor visits, and Sarah crying in the bathroom while I pretended I couldn't hear her through the door. So when she announced at Sunday dinner that she was finally pregnant, the whole family lost their minds with joy. Mom started crying into her mashed potatoes. Dad actually hugged me, which he hadn't done since I was 12. Even my brother Jake seemed genuinely happy for us, though he'd been acting weird all month, more quiet than usual, watching Sarah when he thought nobody was looking. 16 weeks, Sarah had said, her hand resting on the gentle curve beneath her yellow sundress. We wanted to wait until we were sure everything was okay before we told everyone. Mom immediately started planning the nursery. Dad began talking about teaching his grandchild to fish. Jake just sat there, pushing green beans around his plate with this strange expression I couldn't read. The dinner was perfect. Sarah looked radiant, telling stories about morning sickness and weird cravings. She'd been so careful about everything, no coffee, no wine, prenatal vitamins every morning with breakfast. I'd seen her taking them myself, watched her make that little face when she swallowed them because they made her nauseous. After we ate, I went out to the back porch with Dad and Jake to look at the new deck Dad was building. Sarah stayed inside with Mom, probably getting bombarded with baby advice and old wives' tales. Everything felt normal. Everything felt right. Then I heard her scream. Not a startled yelp or a surprised shout, a real scream, raw and terrified, coming from the kitchen. The kind of sound that makes your blood turn to ice water and sends you running before your brain can catch up. I burst through the kitchen door and froze. Sarah was on the floor, curled up and gasping, both hands pressed to her stomach. Jake was standing over her, his face white as paper, his right hand still clenched in a fist. "What did you do?" The words came out of me like a roar. I didn't think, I just launched myself at him, tackling him to the linoleum. We hit the ground hard, his head bouncing off the cabinet door. "What did you do to my wife?" Jake's eyes were wide, panicked, but not guilty. Not like someone who'd just hit a pregnant woman. More like someone who'd just discovered something terrible. "David, stop," he gasped as I grabbed his shirt. "You don't understand, she's not pregnant." Those words hit me like a physical blow. I loosened my grip just enough for him to keep talking, though every muscle in my body wanted to pound him into the floor. "I saw her this morning," he said quickly, his voice shaking. "I came by early to return your drill, remember? You were still in the shower, and I saw her through the kitchen window. She was dumping prenatal vitamins down the sink. Whole bottles of them. Then she went upstairs and came back down with a pillow stuffed under her dress." "You're lying." But even as I said it, something cold was spreading through my chest. "You're sick and you're lying." "I wish I was." Jake's voice broke. "I've been watching her all month, trying to figure out if I was going crazy. The way she holds her stomach, it's wrong, David. She holds it like it's an object, not like there's a baby in there. And she never looks surprised when she touches it. Pregnant women are always surprised by their bellies getting bigger. They pat them and look down like they can't believe it's real. Sarah never does that." I looked over at Sarah, who was still curled up on the floor but no longer gasping. She was listening to every word, and the expression on her face wasn't pain or fear. It was rage. "Get off him." Her voice was different now. Colder. "Get off him right now, David." I stood up slowly, my head spinning. Jake scrambled to his feet, backing toward the door where Dad and Mom had appeared, drawn by the noise. "Sarah," I said carefully, "are you okay? Do we need to call an ambulance?" She got to her feet with none of the careful, protective movements I'd grown used to seeing from her over the past few weeks. No hand on her back, no gentle cradling of her belly. She just stood up like nothing had happened. "I'm fine," she said, smoothing down her dress. "Your brother is delusional." But something was wrong with the way she was standing. The curve under her dress looked different. Flatter on one side, like something had shifted. "Sarah," I said quietly, my mouth going dry. "Can you lift up your dress?" "Excuse me?" "Just lift it up. Show us the baby." The silence in that kitchen was deafening. Mom was staring at Sarah with growing horror. Dad looked confused, like he'd walked into the middle of a foreign film. Jake was pressed against the wall, watching Sarah like she might explode. "I'm not lifting up my dress for your entertainment," Sarah said. "I'm not some carnival show." "Then let's go to the hospital," I heard myself say. "Right now. We'll get an ultrasound, make sure the baby's okay after what just happened." Sarah's face went through a series of expressions so quickly I almost missed them. Surprise, calculation, anger, and finally something that looked almost like relief. Fine, she said. Let's go to the hospital. That should have been the moment I felt better. Instead, the cold feeling in my chest got worse. The drive to the emergency room was the longest 20 minutes of my life. Sarah sat in the passenger seat, still protectively holding her stomach, occasionally wincing like she was in pain. But there was something performative about it now that I couldn't unsee. Jake had offered to come with us, but I told him to stay home. I needed to figure this out without his accusations echoing in my head. Though as we sat in traffic, his words kept replaying anyway. She holds it like it's an object, not like there's a baby in there. I watched Sarah out of the corner of my eye. Her hand was resting on the curve of her belly, but now that I was looking, really looking, it did seem wrong somehow. Her fingers were spread wide, like she was holding a beach ball in place. How are you feeling? I asked. Scared, she said without looking at me. What if something happened to the baby? What if your brother hurt our child? The pain in her voice sounded real. But then, Sarah had always been good at making things sound real. She was an actress when we met, doing community theater and small local productions. She could cry on command, laugh like her heart was breaking, make you believe anything she wanted you to believe. When had I forgotten that? I'm sure the baby's fine, I said, but my voice sounded hollow even to me. At the hospital, they took us back quickly once Sarah mentioned she was pregnant and had been hit in the stomach. The nurse who checked us in looked at me suspiciously when Sarah told her story, clearly wondering what kind of man brings his pregnant wife to the hospital after his brother attacks her. I wanted to explain, but what would I say? My brother thinks my wife is faking a pregnancy with a pillow? They'd probably call security. The doctor who examined Sarah was a middle-aged woman with kind eyes and gentle hands. Dr. Martinez, according to her badge. She listened to Sarah's story, nodding sympathetically, then turned to me. And you witnessed this assault? Yes. I found my brother standing over her after she screamed. We'll need to do some tests, Dr. Martinez said. Blood work, urine sample, and definitely an ultrasound to check on the baby. Abdominal trauma during pregnancy can be serious, even if the mother feels fine. Sarah nodded eagerly. Of course. Whatever you need to do. That should have reassured me. If she was faking, wouldn't she try to avoid the tests? Instead, she seemed almost excited about them. They drew blood first. Sarah chatted easily with the technician, talking about morning sickness and baby names. She peed in a cup without complaint. Through it all, she kept one hand on her stomach, occasionally shifting positions like the baby was moving. But when they wheeled in the ultrasound machine, something changed in her face. Just for a second, so quickly I almost missed it, she looked triumphant. This might be cold, Dr. Martinez warned, squeezing gel onto Sarah's exposed belly.